Hello and welcome everyone to today's tutorial on learning C++ from the scratch. In today's tutorial, we are going to talk about arrays in C++. So what is array and why do we need it? Well, to answer this question, let's take a look about this example over here, where as you can see, in this example, we have multiple students, and each student have a mark. For example, student 1 got 85 out of 100, and student 2 got 95 out of 100. Student 3 got 85, 4, 77, and so on. So, for each student, we create a variable and store a value inside it, where each variable can only store a single value. Okay? Each variable can store only a single value. So if we need to create, or if we have 100 students and need to store 100 marks, we are going to create 100 variables, which will take a lot of time. As well as if we want to print all the marks of the 10 students, we are going to keep printing out or see out the 10 students, or maybe the 100 students if we have 100 students. We can do it this way, or we can do it this way as well. See out student 1, then student 2, and so on. Anyway, both way is going to take a lot of time and a pain of a head as well, as you can see. Like, imagine you have 100 students instead of 10 students. So, because of this problem, array was introduced. And using array, instead of creating 10 variables to store 10 values, we only create one value. This is what we call array. And we only create one variable and store multiple values inside it. So it makes storing variable or multiple values more easier for us. Like instead of creating multiple variables, we only create one variable to store multiple values. And also, instead of creating 10 cout or maybe 100 cout to print 10 or 100 students, we only need to use the for loop to print as much as we want from the array. Like for example, this one will print 10 values of the array. And if we want to print 100 values, we just need to make the loop reach the 100 value. So that's how arrays solve the problem of this repetition. So now, let's see how we can build an array step by step. Let's erase all of this stuff. So, to create an array, it's quite similar to creating a variable. We start by declaring the type of values that we are going to store. Like for example, if we are going to store multiple values of integer data, we are going to say int. And then give this variable a name. So maybe let's call it students. And then, here comes the difference. Instead of directly saying equal, which we do usually when we are creating variable, when we are trying to create array, we first open a square bracket. So this identifies that we are creating an array instead of normal variable, and then follow it by equal. So that is array. And now, if we want to store multiple values inside an array, we open a curly bracket. And inside this curly bracket, we store as many values as we want. So for example, the first value is 96, the second one is 66, the third one is 77, the fourth one is 65, 78, and so on. And each value is separated by comma, as you can see over here. So that's simply how we can create an array that can store multiple values in C++. So what about printing a value inside an array? Well, before when we were dealing with variable and want to print the value inside the variable, we just print or type the name of a variable, like this one over here. But array will not work the same way as a variable. So let's try to print the value inside student. And what you will see is something weird over here. And actually, this is an address in our memory, which we don't care about it. And so, what we care is how we can print these values inside the array. Well, to print the value inside an array, we must talk about something called index in C++. So index identify the position of a value inside an array. So like this one over here, 96 have an index, and the value of the index is the number 0. So this one the value of the index of the 96 is 0, and the second one is 1, and the index of this one is 2, and this one is 3, and this one is 4. So the first one is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And as more as we increase the values stored inside the array, the more index we have inside our array. So if we have another value inside here, this will be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if we want to print the value 77, we are going to open a square bracket here and type the index of the value that we want to print. For example, as we said before, we want to print the 77. What is the index of 77? This one is 0, this one is 1, this one is 2. So we are just going to print number 2 inside here. And now if we run our program, as you can see, we print the number 77. What about if we want to print the number 96? Well, as we said before, we start counting at number 0. So this index is number 0. So if we type 0 over here, it should print 96. Okay, what about if we want to print all the values inside this array? So what we can do is similar to what we did before when we were using normal variables. We could say end line over here and then create another cout. And instead of saying, or you know what, let's just copy the line above, copy, paste, 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 paste. This will print the first value in our array, and index 1 will print the second. Index 2 will print the third, index 3 will print the fourth one, which is 65, and the index number 4 will print the fifth one. We need another one, and this one will print the fifth one. So as you can see, this is similar to what normal variables do. But arrays have another way to print all the values inside an array, even if we have maybe 100 values inside it. And what we are going to do is using loops. In loops, we talked about before about loops that if we want to print numbers from maybe 1 to 5, what we can do is define the first value that we want to print. Like in this case, I'm going to say int I is equal to 1 if we want to start printing numbers from 1. And then the condition, until when are we going to keep printing numbers? In this case, until we reach the number 5. So while I is less than or equal to 5. And finally, by how much do we want to increase the number in each loop? In this case, we want to print 1, then 2, then 3. Each loop increased by 1. So we are going to say I++. Here, what we can do is say cout I and end line. And if you still remember, what this going to print, let's delete this part over here. What this loop is going to print is numbers from 1 to 5, as you can see over here. But what if we want to start printing from number 0, not from number 1? We simply need to change the initial value from 1 to 0. So this is going to change the starting point that I will be. In this case, I will start with 0, as you can see over here, and will stop at number 5. And now, if we return to our array, let's put back this to 0. As you can see, it is similar to our output in our for loop, where we start with 0, then 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, then 5. Like when we want to print the value inside an array, what we just need to change is the index inside this square bracket. And we can get use of this with our for loop. So instead of saying I here, what we can say is students, open a bracket, and inside the bracket we are going to enter the I variable. So at the first loop, I value will be 0. So it will print the index or the value inside the index 0, which is 96. In the second loop, I will be 1. So it will print 66. So let's put here some shortcut. So if we said student 1, it's going to print 66. And then on the third loop, I value will be 2. So it will print 77. And in the loop number 3, the value of students with index 3 will be 65, and so on until it reaches the number 5, which is the value 77. So if we delete this part over here and try to run our program, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot the equal sign over here. So let's change this back to I and try to run our program. Now what you can see is that it's printing all the value of our array using this for loop in C++, which only costs us 2 to 3 lines. But with normal way, it would cost us lines as much as how many variables we have. Like if we have 100 students, we are going to need 100 lines to print all the 100 students. So that's how helpful array is. And actually, we can also use the index of an array to change a value or update a value inside our array. Like for example, if you want to update this 65 over here, what is the index of this 65 inside our array? Well, let's start counting from 0. So 0, 1, 2, 3. So the index of this value over here is 3. And we can use that index to change or update this value. So what we're going to do is type the name of the array, so it's students, and then open a square bracket, and inside this square bracket, we are going to type the index of the value inside an array that we want to change, which is in this case this one over here, which is 3, as we counted before, 0, 1, 2, 3. And then put the new value that we want. So for example, let's put 86 and end it with semicolon. And now this block of code over here will print the value of our array after we change the value. So let's see now what is the value of our array. Like what is the values inside our array? 96, 66, 77, and 86 instead of 65. So that's how we can change or update a value inside our array. And finally, sometimes we want to create an array but not like input inside it any value. Like before, we can create a variable like this one over here and not store anything inside it. Like we just can create an empty variable and the program will work fine, as you can see over here. And maybe then later on our program we can put values inside it. Well, array, we can do the same thing inside our array, but instead of just deleting the value and equal sign and let's delete the for loop because it's empty, what you will see is that it will throw an error, as you can see. In array, when we create an array without putting any value inside it, we need to tell our compiler how much value it would maybe have in the future. Like for example, maybe we can say that we are going to enter 10 values inside it in the future. So we are going to enter here 10. This means that I can enter up to 10 values inside this array. And now if you try to run our program again, it will work fine. So if we have an empty array, we need to tell our compiler how many values are we going to enter inside it in the future. But if we are going to input a values inside it from the start, it will automatically assign how many values inside it. It will count it will count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and automatically assign 6 over here. But if you don't have any value from the start, you need to tell him how much value it will have in the future. Yeah, and that's it. I wish that was clear. Thank you very much for watching and see you next time.